Hiya, everybody. Welcome to Sunflower City, aka the Fundraising Office. Joined with me today is Mark Allison, also known as Run Geordie Run, who has been a supporter and fundraiser for the hospice for over 30 years, and he's raised almost £100,000 for the hospice since he started, which is absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for giving us your time today, Mark, and joining us on the call to talk about everything that you've been doing. You're obviously a very passionate and driven guy. So what was it about the hospice that drove you to raise so much money? And do you have any personal connections with the hospice?
Yes, well, thanks for having me on this. It didn't start in the best of circumstances for me, like, many people associated with the hospice who've, come to need the services. And the hospice cared for my mum when she had lung cancer. That was back in 1993 as a day patient. She would visit the day unit. Ultimately, she spent her final days on the ward in the old building, the old hospice. And yeah, that was 95, her final days. But the care that she was given, the sort of dignified and as comfortable as possible end to her life, made me realise what a special place St Benedict's Hospice is for people in the region. That's something I vowed then never to forget, and the debt of gratitude that I felt towards the hospice and the staff had to be repaid and is continuing to be repaid. You said I've raised £100,000 there. It's £150,000 almost.
Wow, I need to check my figures, sorry.
Yes, on rungeordierun.com, there's a running total there. But that sounds like it's one person raising funds, but in Run Geordie Run makes it sound like it's one person. But behind that is an unbelievable amount of generosity from a whole host of people from all walks and backgrounds, some wealthy, some not so. I find that the less people have, the more they're inclined to give, type of thing. So it's a huge collective effort. Run Geordie Run serves as a kind of magnet, if you like, to attract those funds in. But the amount of generosity and support from so many individuals over the last 30 years has been quite astounding, and has helped me repay that personal debt of gratitude that I feel towards the hospice. And that feeling is as strong today as it was back in the 90s. I can't, and I will never be able to thank the hospice enough for what they did for my mum and my family. So yeah, just got to keep on fundraising, saying thank you. It's the least I can do for what the hospice have done for me and my family.
Yeah, that's an absolutely amazing story, and we're so glad that the hospice could help you and your mum out in her time of need, and we're so thankful for everything that you've done since the passing of your mother. I'm sure she is well aware of everything that you're doing in aid of the hospice, and every time that you help us out, you're also improving the lives of everybody who comes through our doors, improving their care, everything. So thank you again. People who come through the doors, they have lots of different kind of realities and situations, but a situation that none of us are familiar with is casually announcing that you are planning on doing 40,000 steps, more than it takes to climb Mount Everest, whilst training to run across America. My first question is, aren't your legs going to fall off? And secondly, my question is, how much regimen and planning goes into preparing for a fundraiser like Beyond Mount Everest? Can you tell us a little bit more about that event?
Yes, so as you've said, the big event is next year, 2025, the Run Across America in aid of the hospice. But between now and then, I'm always thinking of fundraising ideas. The funds do trickle in at this early stage. We're about a year before that USA run's going to start. So when I saw the 40th birthday, the number 40 associated with the hospice, I got to thinking, could I eat 40 pies? Could I eat 40 bacon sandwiches? Should I do something more healthy? Perhaps, yes, I should. I've run 40 miles quite a lot in the past. I've kind of done that, and I'll be doing so again in America. And then I thought, well, the number 40, let's multiply that up, 40,000, so 40,000 feet. And my friend, who's a personal trainer, he owns a gym. He's called David Fairlam, in Tyne Tunnel Trading Estate. He has what you call a VersaClimber class, and that is a set of 12 VersaClimber machines. And people, it's a bit like a spinning class or a circuit class, that type of situation. People generally climb about 2,000 feet in half an hour in a class. So it's all about 40,000 feet of climbing. As I say, it'll take about half an hour generally in one of his classes to climb 2,000 feet. So I'll leave you to do the maths to calculate how long it's going to take for 40,000 feet. It's an event I did for the hospice. It raised over £1,000 a couple of years ago, where I climbed 29,029 feet, which is the height of Mount Everest. And then the number 40 came around, and it just seemed to add up to me that it made sense that the next logical step was, let's take this to 40,000 feet. And it's if that last event was a kind of marathon in climbing terms, this is certainly an ultra marathon. It could take between 10 and 13 hours to complete. It's not just the physical aspect of it that's a challenge, it's the mental aspect as well. It's a huge amount of time to spend on one machine to climb that height. And if people don't know what a VersaClimber is, if you want to watch the movie Rocky IV, you will see Ivan Drago, the boxer, training on one during a training scene, and it's exactly the machine that I'll be using. It's a really old but absolutely superb piece of equipment for the gym. It's quite it's got low resistance on your joints, so it's a really good thing to train on. It's a huge calorie burn in such a short space of time. I anticipate burning between 9,000 and 10,000 calories during the event. I look forward to putting those calories back in the next day in some way, shape or form. So yes, 40,000 feet, the number 40, very significant. In terms of planning and preparation for it, there's a hub there, a room with the VersaClimbers in. There's about 14 of them. I'll be using one, of course. I think the biggest planning and prep that I'll have to do is to come up with a decent playlist of music. If I can just describe this hub, it's a darkened room with it looks like a nightclub, I suppose. Flashing lights, really loud music. It's world-class sound and vision. You're kind of deprived of your senses in that room. All you know is you've got to climb as fast and as with a lot of depth as you possibly can in a particular class, in a 30-minute class. So I've got to get through that in 10 to 13 hours, I suppose. But yeah, I'll be coming up with a really good playlist to put over the sound system to get me going, and there's some tracks that will help to do that. So all I've got to do is turn up on the day, press play on the iPod, and start climbing, continue climbing, question my life choices, no doubt, take myself to dark places, remind myself why I'm doing this, broadcast it out on social media, hopefully watch a lot of donations come in. So that's the kind of plan for the day at the end of June.
So, and I assume you will be taking breaks, right?
The last time I did it, the only breaks I took were to go to the toilet. So I'm literally off for 2 minutes and then back onto the machine. And that's strange in itself, because as soon as you climb, I don't know, that's maybe every 8,000 feet. I did notice the last time I climbed 29,000 feet that after you get off the machine, after 8,000 feet or so, the body does strange things. I was walking like a chimpanzee, for example. My legs were just used to climbing upwards and upwards and upwards to then come back down to earth and try to walk properly. Was a very strange experience indeed. So 40,000 feet, yeah, that's going to be pretty difficult. The after effects, never mind during the event. So yeah, 10 to 13 hours of climbing with only a few breaks. I just want to get it over with. There's no time for eating sandwiches, and I'll be eating on the go, as it were, as I climb.
Well, I think all of us can kind of relate to when you do maybe a 10-minute run on the treadmill and you get off and your legs feel like jelly. So I can't even imagine what your legs must feel like after that. And I applaud you. I really do. So as you said before, like you've been really involved with the hospice since the early 90s, when we were out of the old building. And as you also mentioned, it's St Benedict's 40th birthday anniversary this year, which is why we're running the 40 for 40 campaign. And your More Than Everest fundraiser is actually the first fundraiser being launched in our 40 for 40 campaign. We all knew that you were ready to get involved as soon as it went out, but did you have any other fundraising ideas for the 40th anniversary campaign that you decided not to go with before settling on the More Than Everest fundraiser?
I mean, obviously my events are all running based. 40 miles is something I've done before many times during runs across America, Australia, Europe. It just didn't have a unique feel about it. So running 40 miles was certainly my first thought. But then I thought, well, 40,000 on a Versa climber, yeah, that's unique. People can kind of relate to that in terms of elevation. You know, it's genuinely recording your effort in terms of elevation gained. So just as you run a mile, I will be climbing 1 foot, 2 foot, 1,000 feet. So there are no shortcuts to be had. You've just got to climb. And yeah, have a look at that Rocky IV movie, that training sequence, and you'll see Ivan Drago, the boxer, on the actual machine. But other than running and climbing, yes, I could have baked 40 cupcakes and sold them. Perhaps that would have been an easier option for me, although I'm not sure the outcome would have been good for the customers buying the cakes. I'm not the world's best chef or baker, I must admit. So I've just played to my strengths really, and I would implore other people to do the same.
Okay, amazing. So those are all great ideas, and maybe some of our listeners can pinch a few of those ideas, as Mark is obviously a very busy man. When you're not in super fundraiser mode or Run Geordie Run, as most people know you, do you ever have any anxieties around the tasks that you've set yourself, and how do you overcome those?
Yeah, I mean, last night, I mean, I had a deep sleep and lots of dreams were had last night. It doesn't happen all of the time, but I'm constantly trying to work through the logistics of, say, the run across America, both during the waking day and quite often I dream about such things. That does lead to anxiety and worry and stress. You know, I don't think it's stress and worry and anxiety in the real sense of the word. You know, this is something that's just it's a nice problem to have, put it that way. You know, there are real stresses and worries and anxieties that many people have in their own right. This isn't that. That's not what I'm talking about. But I'm starting to think, for example, I need to average running 31.5 miles per day in America. I've done that before, but it still makes me anxious. You know, I don't want ultimately to let the charity down. That's first and foremost in my mind. So everything that I do in my daily life is geared towards that. It's like a huge jigsaw puzzle, a 10,000 piece jigsaw puzzle. And what I eat and how I train is just one of those tiny pieces, trying to attract sponsorship, another set of large pieces, I suppose, getting a support team, all of that, when you break it down, helps to ease any worry and anxiety that might be had. You know, you've got to look at it, compartmentalize, I think people would call it, and just break a huge task up into small and manageable chunks. And this isn't something that I've just decided to do overnight. You know, I've built up over 30 years to this point in time. So my advice would always be to start small. You know, once over, I ran around the block for no reason whatsoever. I just ran around the block just to see if I could do that. And is that what I could do to raise funds? I did then a 3-mile run, and then I ran from work 8 miles. This is over a period of months. Then I was doing the Great North Run, the London Marathon, and it's just built up over time. So just to try and break things down, each massive task running across America is made up of so many small little pieces that need to be thought about and tackled. And those smaller pieces are much more manageable and make you less anxious and worry less. But yes, it's just trying to manage all of that is always difficult.
Yeah, I can imagine. And just going back to what you said about the anxieties, we want you to know that you could never let the charity down. We value absolutely everything that you do, what every supporter does. You don't need to put that much pressure on yourself.
Yeah. You're right. You know, and the last time I ran across America in 2011, now that was real anxiety. And it will happen next year, I guarantee that. And it'll because I'll be putting everything online, lots more video on YouTube, it's going to make for a quite fascinating journey, actually. But I've noticed through every major event I've ever done, for example, in 2011, the last week or so, I was getting more and more anxious. I was so close to the finish line in terms of time, but not in distance. I still had hundreds of miles to run and the time was running out. I was so far behind schedule. Daily temperatures of 35 to 40 Celsius on the east coast of the US back then. And my mind couldn't cope with that. And the same thing happened in Australia. The same thing happened in Europe. It's a bit like the anxiety you feel for Christmas as a kid. You just want it. You just want it there and then and done and open presents. Well, I just want the finish line. Now, if I let myself think along those terms in days 1 to 50, that's not something I would be able to cope with. But it's unavoidable, that anxiety that's felt towards the end of each run. So close to the finish line, but so much effort still to put in. And it's quite toxic, and that's something at least I'm prepared for next year. But with the help of so many people at the end of the phone, for example, or the messages on social media, or the emails, the donations coming in, that's the antidote to all of that anxiety. And just realizing that the next step, the next mile, is one of those tiny pieces of a huge jigsaw that I referred to earlier, and just keeping that sense of perspective. So while I'm talking in these terms, the anxiety next year towards the end of that run, as I get towards Huntington Beach in California, yeah, it's unavoidable, but it's expected, and I'll be able to manage and cope with it.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I think there are a lot of people out there that, they'd love to run the length of the beach or do a silly work dress up day, but they're kind of like held back from participating by their own like worries surrounding maybe not finding the support that they were expecting from friends and families. Maybe, like you said, saying they don't want to let the charity down. And like, we just really want to reinforce that even trying is the best kind of support we could ever receive from our supporters. So circling back to that, if you had one piece of advice for someone who wanted to start a fundraiser, what would it be?
Yeah, think of something realistic, something achievable. Start small, and over time that can grow. But right here, right now, think of something that is achievable, that does capture people's imagination as well. Make it a bit quirky, the fundraiser. Try and be a bit different from what everyone else has done. But that doesn't mean it has to be beyond people to do. Just turning up, giving it a go, as you've already alluded to, is part of the battle. So yeah, I think that's starting small, as I once did, and just building that up over time. You just never know where those early days are going to lead. And because every pound is so valuable to the hospice, a small event, it makes a huge difference to the hospice's funds. You might not think you're doing something considerable or impressive, but absolutely every fundraiser is, and I'm proud to be part of this fundraising community of volunteers. Every pound is so precious, and we must battle for those pounds for the hospice, and and try and get them in as best we can from so many different people. So whether that's a big event, a small event, put all of those things together and it makes a massive, massive difference. So please do at least something, turn up, start small for your realistic challenge, and get the funds into the hospice.
I think you put it so well. That is perfect. Yeah, that's exactly like our values here at the hospice. Like we're just glad to see anybody's face, really. Like, come join the community, come join #Team Benedict, and we're all going to have a really good time. That's amazing, Mark. St. Benedict's truly values you and everything that you do for us. We support you fully the same that you support us. And thank you so much for your time. I just want to kind of bounce back and get the dates for these fundraisers out for everybody. So the More Than Everest, when is that occurring?
That's the final Saturday in June. It's either the 28th or 29th, if memory serves me correct.
Yeah. And your fundraiser across America, when does that kick off?
I absolutely know when that is. That's in 358 days' time. So that will be May the 1st, 2025.
Got the countdown going.
Yeah, and with a lot of good luck and hard work, that will finish 100 days later on August the 8th.
Wow.
2025, that is.
Amazing. And so I think we're going to wrap this up here. It's been really, really lovely speaking to you. Do you have anything that you'd like to add?
No, just thanks for giving me the time and the opportunity to tell my story. And if it inspires at least one other person to do something and raise some funds, well, it's been the best time I've spent all week, put it that way.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much. And like Mark said, if you have any questions, if you've been inspired by Mark's journey and story and you want to get involved in some fundraising, please don't hesitate to email the fundraising office. So that's fundraising@stbenedicts.co.uk. Alternatively, I'm sure Mark would be happy to answer some questions over his Instagram handle. He's got the Run Geordie Run Instagram. And again, if you want to kind of interact with our socials, you can find us on social media at St. Benedict's Hospice on Instagram and Facebook. That's great. Thank you so much for coming on today, Mark. And I hope you enjoy the sun and get a bit of training done today.
Well, last night was a 5-mile run to the gym, did my gym session, and I ran 5 miles back. All of a sudden, it's warm out there. Where did that come from? So that's good practice for next year.
Us Brits are weird, aren't we? We'll complain about the rain and everything, and as soon as it's sunny, it's a bit too hot, isn't it? Right, amazing. Thank you so much, Mark. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Welcome to